You're probably living under a rock if you have no clue what Stranger Things is, but we're sure there isn't a single person with internet access that doesn't know about the global phenomenon. With Season 4 just around the corner, we're going to break down the things you probably missed in the latest trailer. Let's dive right into the Upside Down. Season 4 is almost with us after a near 3-year wait. Finally, the latest teaser for Season 4 may have just sent your excitement levels through the roof if you weren't already hyped enough for its return. We know we are. Utterly delighted to report that the trailer is as glorious as we had hoped and dreamed. The 3-minute video that was dropped on Tuesday is chock full of enough footage to tease, shock, and intrigue us. We have plenty of questions swimming in our heads as to what it all could mean, just like you might as well. We can provide you with a few things you may have missed from the trailer, even though we don't have all the answers to your potential queries yet. In today's video, we're going to take a deep dive into some blink, and you'll miss it, snippets of footage from the lengthy teaser while speculating what any of these specific moments could mean ahead of the return of this global phenomenon and everything that comes with it. Needless to say, potential spoilers for Season 4 ahead. Proceed at your own risk. Oh, and if you didn't think of this before, go watch the trailer. What did you think this was, silly? We're literally going to dissect everything you might have missed out on. There's a new antagonist in town in the latest season, so let's get that villainous tease out of the way first. As the trailer reveals, all signs point towards it being the Mind Flayer's new and potentially final form. Nobody needs reminding of how the gang managed to defeat the Beast in last season. Unfortunately, not once and for all. It seems as though the Mind Flayer is done playing games and has taken on a horrendous human Demogorgon hybrid form to seek out and destroy El and the rest of the gang. All of that plus a new name, too. Talk about rebranding. Vecna, for the uninitiated, is one of the most famous villains in the history of Dungeons & Dragons, so it wouldn't be a major shock if they end up giving this name to the Mind Flayer's latest incarnation, given that the Stranger Things gang are big D&D fans. The second episode is literally titled Vecna's Curse, so maybe we're finally getting some insight on this demonic corpse flower-looking thing's backstory. What it's all about, you know what we mean? The trailer seemingly teases how the Mind Flayer has acquired a human host body, interestingly enough. Guess that's a new trick it has picked up along the years of torture. The Mind Flayer's headquarters appears to be none other than Creel House, which is one of the new locations that we'll see in Season 4, as a couple of brief trailer moments suggest. We wouldn't be surprised if they learned that this location is the birthplace of the Upside Down, given that some of the Stranger Things gang will be investigating the mystery behind Creel House. Not only that, but one of Creel House's former dwellers murdered his own children not long after he and his family moved into their new home. Victor Creel, who will be played by Robert Englund, was the infamous Freddy Krueger in Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. So big hopes for the execution of this character to be flawless. The possibility that the Mind Flayer's evil influence on Creel coerced him into killing his own children is also something to be explored. Even though Creel is imprisoned in a psychiatric unit by the time the kids in Season 4 roll around, it's likely that the Mind Flayer has modeled his new body on Creel, with Creel potentially being a physical vessel for the Mind Flayer to commit atrocities through. You know how it is being a vesseless demonic entity. What can we say? You take what you can get. Based on the trailer, it seems that Eleven won't be the only member of the Stranger Things crew that the Mind Flayer is after in Season 4, but only time will tell. One of the biggest mind games we've witnessed is Max floating above Dustin, Lucas, and Steve at some point. This may suggest that she has powers like El. We think there's a simpler explanation as to why Max can seemingly levitate, though. Their victory against the Mind Flayer wasn't without any losses. We saw her stepbrother, Billy, sacrifice himself to save the kids in a moment which broke our hearts despite Billy's antagonistic ways. And despite his death, it seems like he still has a huge role this season. Episode 4, titled Dear Billy, is likely to be centered around Max and her grief surrounding Billy's demise. From the footage, it seems like the footage of her visiting his grave will take place during this episode, which in turn means that the scene where Max floats in the air is also likely to occur during Dear Billy 2. We don't necessarily believe she has superpowers like El, but this may be a link to Billy somehow. He was a physical vessel for the Mind Flayer after all, so this might make her a prime target for the Mind Flayer in the show's next installment. We can only wait to find out what the real tea is. Given its ties to Billy and that the Mind Flayer can levitate, we suspect he'll be able to track Max down and try to use her as its next physical vessel. That's why, in our personal opinion, we believe she's floating in the air in that particular scene. Curiously, near the end of the trailer, it's Max who's running from Vecna, so maybe it's possessed her and is trying to take over her mind in some location straight out of a horror movie. We are unconvinced about Max somehow having superpowers. That would obviously be awesome, though. There's speculation that Max's ability to levitate may lead to alternate universes unfolding as well. A Twitter user by the name Mia explained that 2 different versions of Billy's headstone are seen in the trailer. One says Billy, but one says William. This has to be on purpose because if they had erroneously messed up Billy's headstone inscription in 2 scenes, it would be a major oversight on Netflix and the Duffer Brothers' part. Is it possible given that it's happened in The Mandalorian and Game of Thrones? Sure, but realistically, we doubt it. There could even be a reality where Max has superpowers instead of 11, given that the scene we saw wasn't just a dream sequence or the Mind Flayer possessing Max. Plus, there's another scene that hints at this too. Is there finally going to be lore explicitly related to the Stranger Things realm? We hope so. Exciting times as we catch a very, very brief glimpse of what appears to be portals to other dimensions at the 159 mark in the trailer. Could this be confirmation of alternate universes this season? Perhaps. Funny thing is, it would make so much sense too. The monster with several names has access to other worlds and potentially destroys them in its quest to rule the multiverse until the kids and their meddlings get in the way. The Scooby Gang has nothing on these kiddos. It's certainly a topic of hot discussion in the aftermath of the trailer's release, regardless of what this particular snippet of footage is actually alluding to. With some trying to link them to specific moments in the trailer, multiple fans have picked up the timestamps that can be seen around each portal. It's still important to note that there's still no definitive correlation as of yet. Let us introduce you to our lead guitarist in The Upside Down. You may have noticed an unknown individual shredding guitar on a building in The Upside Down amid the fast-paced edits in the trailer's final 30 seconds. The character is Eddie Munson. He's the leader of the Hellfire Club, the D&D club that Mike and Dustin joined at Hawkins High School, for those of you that aren't aware. Munson is an audacious 80s metalhead and is hated by those who don't understand him and beloved by those who do. Eddie, who will be played by Joseph Quinn, will find himself at the terrifying epicenter of this season's mystery, like the trailer so graciously confirmed for us. So even though we all know Brenner would be making a comeback, only now is that we're realizing that it's more than just flashbacks. An old blind man is seen supposedly looking off camera at another character towards the end of the trailer. Now, it's hard to deduce who this is, but an educated guess would be Brenner. Now we know what you're thinking. This isn't an I see dead people moment. Even though we've all convinced ourselves he died, we never actually saw him dying in the initial season. So really, there was never a guarantee that Brenner kicked the bucket because of the ugly beast. The probability that he survived is still very much there, perhaps at the mere cost of his sight, but living and breathing nonetheless. It's plausible that he went into hiding to ensure 11 couldn't find him. However, it seems like he definitely tanked that one. If he's truly still alive, then there are a plethora of questions yet to be answered. The first and foremost being how on earth he survived. How could you possibly think we could forget about our beloved Hopper? Compared to his cheery vibe in Season 3, we see him looking gaunt and extremely stark in comparison. Echoing the particulates in the air of the upside-down hellscape, snow gingerly falls to the ground. The scene pans to Hopper saying he's convinced he was put here for some other reason, only for us to then see him light up a literal, flaming spear to fight a full-size Demogorgon. Not even one of those tiny baby ones. It's the Big Kahuna. Undeniably, this is super cool, but one simply must question, why is this happening to our sweet old Hopper? What are the Russians onto, and will he ever be reunited with the gang? Well, that last question was already answered because we saw a rickety plane crashing into a snowy forest piloted by none other than Murray and the ever-so-lovely Joyce co-piloting. So one could safely assume whatever Hop had sent her initiated a go-big-or-go-home rescue mission. With so many questions still left unanswered and so many stones left unturned, we're sure fans are reeling at the thought of waiting any longer for the season to drop. Fret not, dear viewers. The answer to all your questions is just a month away. Hold on just a little bit longer.